Thank you for those who've come back, and thank you for those who this is your first time joining. Much appreciated. So my name is Joel Markham. I'm the CEO and founder of Architect Services, and I'll be kind of taking you through the start of this webinar today. So I'll be introducing it and taking you through some backdrop of SharePoint and some I guess views from my perspective, and then I'll hand over to Toby, who's kindly accepted the challenge to do a demo on SharePoint as a collaboration tool. So hopefully you can all see my screen okay, and we'll just jump straight in. So the agenda today then, so we'll do an introduction to SharePoint, as I said. I'll just go through a couple of the new features in SharePoint and some of the key features that we use here at Architect and our customers use. And then we'll go through, as I said, the demo. Toby will take you through the demo of building a SharePoint PMO site as an example, basically, just as a use case to show you how you can build a document repository. Another use case we thought of showing you was a corporate lessons learned log, and then building an events calendar and building an events page as well. We like to keep these sessions collaborative and engaging. So if you want to raise your hand at any point in time, we could come to you and ask, and give you an opportunity to ask a question or give a view. If you did want to, alternatively, you wanted to put like a question in the chat window, more than happy for you to put a request in there. And I'm sure Toby will try his best if he feels brave enough to go off script and to try and show you anything that you may want to see in the demonstration at all. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense, and we'll move on to the next slide. So just a bit about ourselves and Architect. So my background is in PMO and Welsh Water. Did a short stint in Lloyds Banking Group, and then went on to become the head of projects and governance of Babcock International Group. And then I stepped out into Companies House as my first Architect customer, where I was a consultant for a period of time doing leading the P3 portfolio transformation program team over in Companies House. Architect today, we finally updated this slide. Thanks for the marketing team for updating this for me because it's been out of date for a while. But this is just some of our clients, predominantly in the public sector, but also in the private sector as well. So we do work with both sectors really. But yeah, some key and real great valued partnerships that we have with ONS, IPO, ACAS, DEFRA, Bays, Sir Ryan, and Bates and Taylors as well. So really excited about the partnerships we've created along the journey so far. So our approach, we're a bit unique in the way we work. We like to adopt the agile principles, but we have so much more around the outside of those principles that we adopt as well. That's having the best tools and the best systems. So we practice, I guess, what we preach most of the time. We hope, we try to. But using Microsoft 365 as a collaboration tool is something that we do for quite frequently, and all the other platforms and services around the Microsoft ecosystem. We are always capturing the best ideas and always capturing information about our communities, about our customers, and we're always collaborating and pushing each other really to come up with the best ideas for improvement. And then we are always researching and innovating, so we're always pushing the boundaries. So my technical team often get a bit frustrated with me and my crazy ideas, and we all push ourselves to have great innovation across the business. It's always really important for us to do that. We hire the best people, and we've got the best collaboration environments and tools, and we love to learn and share as per this session today. So we're currently on track for one webinar a week. It's a tall order, but we're doing it this year, and we're well into that now. But as part of that, it's about creating good relationships and networking with individuals as well across the communities and the ecosystem. So that's really all for us. Is all about delivering value at pace, and that's what we do here at Architect. So being a Microsoft Gold implementation partner, we break down what we do into 4 key components. So we've got solutions where we build one-offs, advanced business solutions using a Microsoft 365 ecosystem, enabling a digital and modern workplace really. So whether it's a PPM solution, a corporate risk management solution, a desk booking app, really we're taking the components of the Microsoft 365 cloud service and stitching them together to build one-off solutions for our customers. We've then got products like IcoPlan. So IcoPlan is available in the App Store, and you can download that and you can use that as a SaaS product basically, or you can come to us and procure that off us directly. And that's a price per user per month SaaS product in IcoPlan, and we have a few others in the pipeline as well. Service. So some of our customers, we've built the solutions, we've created the relationships, we understand what they're trying to do, and we've got a support and iteration service that we provide as well. So it's just like a service desk, and we're here just to help our customers when they get stuck or if they have a problem or something breaks, which it does at times. We're on hand to fix those problems for the customers. And make sure they always receive value from those tools that they're using. And then consulting, so it's a bit of everything really. Everything we do has got a bit of consulting in there, where we're capturing requirements, delivering change management best practices, and helping our customers really transform the way they work using the digital technologies available in the Microsoft Cloud. So that's really what we do in a nutshell. Again, being a Microsoft Gold partner, we specialize in Project, Power Apps, Power BI, and Dynamics 365. So we have those kind of key capabilities in advanced specializations in those areas. But of course, doing the solutions and the products and the services that we provide, we have to have expertise in OneDrive, Power Automate, Teams, SharePoint, and Exchange, and all the other 48 applications that are available within Microsoft 365, which is pretty crazy. But today is all about SharePoint. So let's talk specifically about SharePoint today. So Microsoft SharePoint, what is it? So it's a web-based, now it used to be on-prem, but it is a web-based collaboration platform. Right? It integrates with is the words on here, but for me it's integral. It's a fundamental part of the Office 365 ecosystem and technology platform. It's primarily sold system, but it's highly configurable, and for me it's much more than that. And for me it's much better at doing a lot of other things than just document management. And on that diagram on the right hand side, it's really about social feeds coming into a single place, site mailboxes, pivot tables, reports, dashboards, KPIs, documents, and creating communities to collaborate efficiently and effectively. It really isn't just a document library. It's kind of a way of working in a way, and it allows you to bring your teams together and to collaborate in an efficient way. So how you could break down SharePoint really is, its level of integration and what it does. So you've got the mail and calendar services, which are underpinned by Outlook. So you can create your distribution list, you create your calendars, which Toby's going to show you today, and so on and so forth. It's a service that is used to run Teams. So whenever you create a Teams group, you're creating a SharePoint site in the background, or that's underpinning that, and it allows for that real-time messaging and ad hoc video meetings. SharePoint is underpinning some of that file communication. So when you upload a file onto a Teams chat and you send it off to your other member of staff in your team, you're effectively uploading it to SharePoint and downloading it on the other side. So whilst you don't see that because it's in Teams, it is a SharePoint service, and you can see that if you look at the URL of the document, in the SharePoint site in the background. It promotes, voice and meetings, and Skype used to run off those services as well. And it's about co-creating content. So really, it's about allowing you to upload documents to a repository. So 2 people or 10 people or 20 people can all collaborate on that document at the same time. It enables that level of collaboration because it's a platform for you all to communicate and engage with. And then it's about creating your sites, creating your content, your wiki pages, your photos, your metadata, and your tags. So you can tag documents with certain classifications, and you can have all your DLP policies set up, and data loss prevention policies, and you can really control the information across your environment using SharePoint. So I think there's some technology in that sense is credit card details and stuff like that, so you can prevent people from writing Word documents and putting credit card details in there, etc., etc. You can go further more advanced in that as well. And then Yammer is the platform that you underpinned by SharePoint, effectively, that allows you to create more engaging communities. I have to admit, I'm not really using Yammer that much, but I have heard it is a good platform. But yeah, that's really what SharePoint is, in my opinion. How can it be used? And I remember doing this God, 10 years ago now, when I was an end user in IT, being a kind of PMO support officer, but I was building lists for risks. I'd literally go in, build a custom list here, and I'd build a risk log. And it was clunky and old because it was in the classic view, but we were recording information, actions, decisions, board level decisions were in custom risks, and then tasks for your actions and mailboxes for the PMO team mailbox, for example, or team calendars. You can use it for a number of different things. It's advanced now since those days when I was using it, to having documents attached to records, and being able to add your own custom columns into those views very quickly and easily, rather than having to go into site settings or list settings and do it in a bit of a clunky way. But it is really about, some of the common use cases for me are intranet sites or team sites. And pinning pages, document libraries, and lists onto those things. Web parts, there's loads of custom web parts. You can purchase web parts as well. So there's like a SharePoint store, which is in that little screenshot there. So you can click on that and you can actually buy web parts to do funky things or specific things to meet your requirement. You can put visuals, pie charts, and dials and KPIs into SharePoint. And you can allow your users to follow or join or subscribe to certain pages and contents, etc. Workflows, so you used to use like Nintex workflows, and now you've got the SharePoint Designer, and now really being trumped by Power Automate. So it integrates heavily with Power Automate to, if you've got an action that's set to an owner, you could build a flow that says send the owner of that action a notification 5 days before the due date, for example. And that's how the workflows are optimizing the way in which you can use the data in those lists. And forms as well. So when you've got a list, you can add a record and you can change the form which the user uses to populate that record. I've seen ideas forms, I've seen business requests or business generated requests, all the way through to the standard PMO lessons, benefits, everybody across an organization adding every benefit of every project into a SharePoint list. Monolithic, but that's the type of use cases that SharePoint is used for. And yes, there is a mobile app as well, which you can use to. Sorry, I should turn it on silent. It's the first time that's ever happened. Is my phone's gone out loud. But catch up on news on the go with a mobile app. So there is a SharePoint mobile app you can download from the App Store, and you can sign in with your Microsoft 365 account, and you can go follow and sort of see the events and the files that have been edited and the records that have been edited on that mobile app as well, which is pretty cool. So I guess, what are the advantages of collaboration? So SharePoint promotes and underpins collaboration across any organization, for me, in my opinion. But I guess members of the team are able to utilize their knowledge and experience and get everybody involved in an outcome or a product. And it's really about sharing their talent and allowing people to solve the problem, really, for me. And without SharePoint, I don't think we'd be able to achieve as much as we have here at Icotec. But as a team, being able to see all the records, all the information in one place is just, I don't know what I'd do without it, to be honest. And then collaboration is not just beneficial for employees, but it's beneficial for the organization. It does a collaboration, allows people to pick up new skills as well and learn from their teammates and connect with each other, which I think is really, really important. So my last slide for me, I guess the fundamentals of SharePoint are: SharePoint is secure, it's within Office 365, it's within your technology stack. So if you're not using it, I highly recommend going to use it. Hopefully you're here today to learn how you can use it more, which is brilliant. And it definitely, as I've kind of focused on a little bit in those previous slides, it helps organizations be more collaborative. Just fundamentally, and it really can help automate mundane tasks as well. So it really can help, but make things efficient, automate your lists and your risks and your actions and all those kind of great things, and bring your community and your team together in one place. And for me, that's the ultimate benefit. So I've done enough talking. I need to to hand over to Toby. Toby, are you able to steal the screen off me, mate, and take over from the presentation?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Joel, very much. Let me
Nice.
just share my screen to begin with. So good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all well. So I'm here today to talk to you about SharePoint. What I'm intending to do is to give you a little demo of how we can actually build a site from scratch. The example we're going to have is building a PMO site. So we're going to put in some template library in there for other project managers to come in and potentially use to create a lessons learned log. So obviously they can record some lessons and they can be shared, and then also to have a calendar as well, so we can see kind of upcoming events and what might be happening around the programs or the projects. So within this as well, I'm going to be showing you some elements of collaboration, so how people can work together using a SharePoint site. SharePoint itself, as Joel was very much saying, by its very nature is a collaborative tool. But this is just really adding in some of the features of SharePoint that can enhance that collaboration. And hopefully I can give you a few tips as we go through this as well. Now, I'm making the broad assumption that everybody at minimum kind of knows what SharePoint is. Joel's done an excellent introduction to that. So if you didn't know, hopefully you do have a much better understanding right now. But I'm just going to do some relatively basic things as we walk through this, but hopefully should give you an idea as to what you could accomplish in literally 20 or 30 minutes. Now, the one thing I'm not going to mention, and I'm going to automatically break my promise straight away by mentioning it, but the thing I'm not going to mention is permissions. So for anybody who's worked with SharePoint before, permissions is really the dirty word. It's where people can get themselves tied up and everything else. But permissions are ultimately absolutely critical to how SharePoint works. It defines what you can build as an administrator or as an owner of the site. It defines the level of collaboration you can have on the SharePoint sites as well with other people as well. So permissions are a really important topic. As I say, I'm not going to go into them today, but obviously do be conscious that you can build the greatest collaboration site in the world, but if it's entirely locked down and nobody can access it, it's of limited use for a collaboration platform. So as I say, I'm going to walk through sites, walk through building a site. If there's any questions, and please feel free to stick them in the chat. And what we do at the end is maybe we'll walk back through his questions, or indeed, if you want to ask questions direct, then please feel free to do so at the end. So just very quickly, what is a SharePoint site? What's it all about? And apologies for those who already know, but in essence, it's a container. That's really the way that kind of Microsoft describe it. It contains other components, and some of those key components are what's called a library, and that is essentially where you would store documents. It has what are called lists, and a list is really where you store data. So there's a difference between data and documents, and almost lists are kind of replacement, if you like, for an Excel document or something like that. You generally get pages on SharePoint sites as well. So it's a web page, and those pages consist of what are called web parts, so other components you can put on that page. And I'm going to show you creating a page today. And then you can also have subsites as well. So essentially a child site that sits underneath the main site. There's some other components as well, but those are really the key bits. And the other thing to say about SharePoint site, that they come in different flavors. So there's different types of SharePoint sites, but there's really two key main ones. One's called a team site, and that's the one that probably most people have heard of. And essentially that's for a work group or a project team, so they can collaborate on project deliverables, plan an event, track statuses, exchange ideas, whatever it is. It's very collaborative, and it's all about people interacting together. Okay, yeah, so team site is really around where it's a collaboration, it's editing of information between different parties, and what's called a communication site, which is much more of a broadcast of telling a message, telling a story, sharing content, but much more for viewing to larger audiences rather than necessarily editing. Okay, so that's enough about SharePoint. That's probably enough for my holiday snaps as well. So let's get on and start showing you some things. This is a little site that I've created earlier. I've just called it Demo Team Site. That's a very imaginative name and all that. Typically, your administrators within your organization, maybe you would have an IT team or a business services team, would actually go and create these sites for you. Okay, so typically it's limited. The organizations generally set things up that way because they want to limit and have some level of control over who's creating sites. This is a kind of a very standard, bland one that comes exactly as Microsoft intended it. What we're going to do with this today is we are going to essentially build some PMO elements on top of this. The key bit in this, the key bit that is really your friend, is this little cog at the top. So it's called the cog. It's how you get to the settings across SharePoint, and this will really allow us to go into all the different components we need to bring that together. So what we're going to do first of all is we're going to build a library, a template library, so we can share some of our PPM documentation with other people. So I'm going to go into my cog. There's a couple of ways of doing this, but I'm going to show the slightly long-winded way, but you get a better view as to what's going on. There's always an option in here, assuming you've got the appropriate permissions. I did promise not to mention that word, but there we go again. Assuming you've got the right permissions, you would be able to get into site contents, and depending on your permissions, that will enable you to create further items actually on the SharePoint site itself. So these are the kind of default things and a couple of little things I added yesterday. But if we want to create a new document library, we come up to new. And then you see there's a variety of options down here. But the one we're going to go for is a document library. So what SharePoint then prompts you for is a bit of information. Say it would like a name, it would like a quick description. So you've got to give it a name. There's no choice about that. Description is kind of optional, but generally good practice to actually add one in, so there's a bit of clarity over what it's about. And a little option down here, do you want to share it in the site navigation? So if you're using the quick links, then it will automatically add it to that. I'm not actually using the quick links in this one, so I'll turn it off. You can turn it back on later on if you wish. So click create, and as quick as that, it will run off and it will create that document library for you. So this is a absolutely basic document library. You may find that yours may look slightly different, both in terms of the colors and the visuals, because they may be controlled by your organization. But within certain organizations as well, there may be document libraries created from templates. So they may come complete with additional fields or certain views or other things built into them. But we got a completely straightforward out-of-the-box Microsoft one that they provided through to us. So first thing we want to do now we've created this is we need to add in some documents. And there's really three ways of doing that. The first is you can go to the individual document itself, and just as you would go to save that in any other document, you can do File, Save As, and you can actually navigate your way through to SharePoint, through to this particular site. It's not particularly intuitive, and you have to do it several times. Yeah, it's a little bit fiddly to do, so it's not generally what we recommend. But if we wanted to move in one or more documents, there's two really quick ways of doing that. One is we can use this upload button over here. So we can say upload, we can choose if we want to upload files, folders, or indeed templates, but let's say we want to go for files. And then that will give us a little search box. We can go and find what we want to do, highlight the particular one or more documents, and click open, and that will actually just import those files in. But a slightly quicker way of doing that, and this is generally what I prefer, is we can have your documents side by side, and you can highlight the documents that you want, drag and drop them over, and then SharePoint will copy those through. And you see that's exactly what it just did. So that's great. That's the basis of it. We've already got some of our templates into a document library, but actually we want to do a little bit more with it. Okay, we've got the documents, but we want to start to put some information against each of these documents as well. So the end user has got some more visibility around what this document is about or certain information about it, and also better ability for us to actually manage these documents. So in this example, we've got some project documentation, but maybe we need to understand a bit about how often these documents are going to be reviewed. So what we can do is we can add in some extra fields, some extra columns against these, and essentially that's called metadata. And the nice quick way of doing this is you see you've got an option over here called add column. So maybe let's add in a bit of information. Maybe we want to have a some kind of drop down that indicates the review status of each document. So we can come in here and we can say choice, because it's going to give us a choice of things that we may want. Let's give it a name. So the name of the field is review status. Again, we can give it a description, which gives it a little bit more narrative around what does this actually mean. But I'm going to skip over that for the moment. And then we can add in our choices. So by default, there's 3. You can have more than 3. You can have less than 3 if you want. But we can just give it some names in here. So let's call it draft. Let's call it approved. Oops, if I could spell PIV. And maybe let's call it something like rejected, something like that. And a nice little new feature coming through in SharePoint, you can see it's starting to put some colors around it, and these will actually be reflected back in the data. You don't have to have these colors, you can take them off, or indeed you can put in some different colors if you want. So we could come into the palette and we could change that. So we want that a kind of cayenne color, and rejected, maybe let's have that in a bit of a nasty red or something. There are some additional options you can do down here. I'm not going to go into these in too much detail, but probably just to say as a default value you could apply as well. So let's make the default value as anything that is draft. So any new item will be tagged as that. And we're going to click save. And you see instantly it's then put down a new column down here. Now none of the data is actually populated, so that's something we would need to go and do in a minute. Now, if we go and add in a couple of extra columns in here, so we've got a review status, but maybe we need to know when the next review is going to be as well. So let's put in a review date. And again, we'll just give it a simple name, so review date. It's a date time. We don't need to include the time, we just need to know the date. We're not going to necessarily be that accurate, and I'm not going to give it a default value on this basis, so just click save on that. And then I'm going to add in one further column. So who's going to be responsible for actually doing the approval? So who in your organization is accountable for it? At review owner. And then this is a person or group. So essentially these will be triggered by people within your organization with a Azure Active Directory account. So basically people with a sign-on in your organization. Do we want to show their profile photo? Why not? Let's put that on as well. Click save. So now we've created 3 additional bits of data that's assigned to each one of these documents, which is great. So what we now need to do is populate those. And we can do that in 2 ways. We can either do that individually at a document by document basis. So if I come into this one, you will then see we've got these options that appear down here. So maybe let's make that one draft. Let's make that one review over there. And let's make the review owner, we'll assign that to Joel, shall we? There we go. Okay, and you'll see as I'm doing that, that's then populated that through there. But a slightly easier way of doing this is you can do it in what's called grid view. So it's a bit like an Excel view, really. And you can run through this very quickly. So we maybe want to make this one approved. And let's say all of these down here were approved as well. We can just drag this down, and just as you can within Excel, that will fill that down. So maybe let's make that one for the approval date yesterday. So it's late. This one we're going to make for the approval date today. This one tomorrow. What about this one there? Make that one late as well. Make that one this week and this week as well. And we'll make Joel responsible for the whole lot of it, shall we? There we go, drag that down. So you'll see each time we do this, SharePoint will run off and it will just do a little check, a little validation to make sure everything's okay. So, you know, have I entered a valid date? Have I entered a valid value? Everything's okay. If it's not okay, it will come back and tell me so. But everything's fine for there. And then I'm just going to click exit at that point. So what we've done very quickly is we've created a document library, we've put some documents in, we've put some additional metadata against those, and we've now got that essentially ready for use. Now, I did say we were going to talk about some collaboration elements in here. So just to show you some of those. So this is actually collaborating within a particular document, and let me just go and open that one there to give you an idea. So we've got a file here called assurance plan, and maybe what I want to do in here is review it, and I've got a couple of questions about something. So I could come in here and I could say, right, comments, I want to actually add a comment in here. I'm not too sure about something, so I'm going to ask Cara if she can go away and actually check this. So what I can do is I can tag Cara into this conversation. So we do that by doing ampersand, and we can start to type Cara's name. There she is. And I'm going to say to her, can you have a look at this, question mark. And by clicking these buttons here, send, that will both put the comment into the document itself, and it will also send Cara a message. So she'll get a notification asking her to come in and actually have a look at this. And if we were to do a second type of comment, and this is actually really new, I only saw this yesterday, so it's part of what Microsoft are doing is continually adding new functionality into this as well. Maybe we're going to ask her to, can you publish? So I'm giving Cara a task in this example, and you see down here is a new little tick box, and I can turn that one on. So instead of this just being a message that I'm putting forward, a comment I'm putting over to Cara, I'm actually creating a task for her to go in and do. So again, I'm going to hit send on that one, and now she actually will have a task. And for those of you who are eagle-eyed in this document, you might notice that Cara is actually in this document directly, and she's incredibly efficient. She's already replied to this comment, and she's telling me that she's now looking at it, and she's on it straight away, which is brilliant. So that's just hopefully giving you a bit of a view as to some of the collaboration that you can actually do within a particular document itself, and how you can have communications and track the changes, and kind of something a little bit bigger than just version changes that you would typically have in a document. This allows you to actually have conversations, but also record the history of those conversations within particular documents. Okay, so I'm just going to jump back to the document library. There's a couple of other things that you can do with this as well, so I just want to talk these through with you just to give you some visibility. Very obvious thing you can do in here is you can sort. So we've only got 6 or 7 items in here, but maybe we want to sort them descending or sort them ascending. We can very quickly change the view, change the data that we're seeing. Maybe we want to filter down our data. So actually, we only want to see those which are draft. So we can click on the headings. We can click filter by. We'll then get a list of options we can filter by. So we're going to say, I just want to see the draft one, click apply, and then very quickly, it just filters down our list of documents. So we just see the draft ones. If I want to take that one off, I can just come in here and put all the approved ones back on again. So I get to see everything. And perhaps another thing we want to do is we want to have a more permanent view of that filter. So we don't want to apply that filter every time. Actually, I just want to see my approved ones, and I want to do that very quickly. And I want other people to have the ability to see those approved ones as well, without having to go through that process of selecting a particular filter, applying a filter each time. So the way I can do that is I can set up a view. So I can come into here and I can say create a new view, and a view is just really how we are sorting and filtering and grouping the documents that we've got within this library. So I'm going to create a new view. I'm going to call it approved, and I will go back and use this later on as well. I'm going to make it public so everybody else can benefit from this as well, and we're going to click create. And essentially what it's done there is it's just created a copy of whatever I had before. So whatever view I had, it's just created a copy of it. It hasn't by default read my mind and know that I only want to see the approved documents. So what I need to do is do a bit of editing on that. I come into the approved option, click on edit current view, and then this will open up a number of different options for me. Now, probably haven't got time to go through all of these, but these are basically just showing me what columns are visible, what filters, what groups, what sorts I've got applied. So the key thing down here is I'm in my filter section, and we just want to see the ones which are approved. So come down to my review status, and what we're saying is review status is equal to approved. And then if I click on OK, hopefully, assuming I could spell correctly. Yep, great stuff. This view is then only giving us those approved documents. So just a very quick way of showing us, the documents based on a set of criteria. Okay, a couple of things to show you on this as well. This is really based around kind of review date. So we know these documents are up for review, but we need to know, when they're going to be reviewed to make sure that happens at an appropriate time. We can see the date down here. We could filter on this. We could maybe build some views around this as well. But ideally, what we want is a bit of a visual cue to kind of show us which stuff needs to be reviewed today, or maybe maybe hasn't been reviewed and is now essentially out of date. So what we can do is use conditional formatting, and this is kind of similar to what you have in Excel. So there's an option in here around format this column. So if I click on that, and we can use format dates up over here, and you see instantly SharePoint's gone away and it's had a guess as to what I might want. And it's been pretty close actually. It says, so if review date is before today, they make it amber. Well, that's not actually quite right, is it? If the review date is in the past, we actually want that to be red. If review date is today, they make it green. Well, we probably want that more of an amber color. And review date is after today, is in the future, so we don't need to review it yet. Well, let's make that one a green. Let's click save. So you see what I've done there is just very quickly applied some formatting to that, and now I've got a very clear visual cue as to those documents that actually I need to go in and have a look at, or Joel needs to go and have a look at actually, because he's the review owner, because they are now essentially out of date, and something needs to be done on that one particular document. Okay.
Toby, we just thanks for that, mate. We just had a request. Can that be repeated? How that was applied, please? Dolly's just asked if we could just go through that again.
Yes, of course. So against each of the columns, you see there's a little drop down over here. So if you hit that drop down and then come down to column settings, against each one, not against every column, because some columns don't allow you to format them, some do, but certainly all of those that are dates or got a choice, you can certainly format. And then you come into this option that says format columns or format this column. So this is the bit over here. So you generally get different types of options depending on what column you choose. But I've gone for this one here, the format dates one. So, and if I click on edit styles, it's then basically coming up with some conditional formatting, which I applied, and some colors against that. Now you can do a lot more kind of detailed conditional formatting as well. So actually you can format one column based on the value of another column as well. There's some quite detailed stuff. But essentially there's some basic conditional formatting which SharePoint has come up with. You can kind of change this as well. So there's a bit of flexibility there. And then it's a case of just choosing your kind of preferred colors.
Cool. Okay. Thanks, Toby. There was another question in the chat window for can you cover version history, please? I don't know whether you want to do that now or later on, but I thought I'd just let you know that as well.
Yeah, I can do that very quickly. So version history, come back to our cog, remember our friend. So we can go into library settings. And then within library settings, there's an option for version settings. And basically by default version setting is on, I think. Yeah, so these options down here. There's also an option as to how many versions do you want to keep and whether you want to keep minor or major versions. Minor versions allow you to essentially publish. So then once you publish, you create a major version, or I think by default most things do a kind of every time you save, it creates a new major version. Once that's created, you can look at the version history of individual documents, and then you can see how they've actually been edited each time as well. You've even got the option to go and restore a previous document if you need to. Okay, last thing I was going to say to this very quickly, so some new functionality coming into this. I believe it's in the automate phase. You can actually set reminders as well. So there's lots of other capability coming in from the Power Platform around Power Apps and Power BI and Power Automate as well. One of the things I can do in here is very quickly set a review date reminder. So this just gives me a couple of options. I think it's going to prompt me to sign in, checking everything is okay. But there's a kind of default flow, default Power Automate flow built into this, which is going to remind me when something is up for review. So you can't, it's not a lot of flexibility in this. You can't really change this. It's standard out the box stuff, but click continue. And then it says remind me basically 1 day before the date. I could change this to 5 days if I wanted, but click create. And then whatever I specify for that date, I should then get some form of email reminder as well. Okay, so that's templates, that's a document library. what I'm going to do now is create a lessons learned log and just show you how that can work. What I've got is a set lessons learned within Excel. And basically, I'm going to take that and I'm going to move that into SharePoint. So I'm going to come back to site contents as a starting point. So I can see all the components which I've got created. And I'm going to say new. And this time, instead of going for document library, I'm going to go for list. Now, there's lots of options that crop up at this point, and this is one of the things that Microsoft have been working very hard on to give some more richness to this functionality. So they have some default templates, if you like, which are these things down here. So you can create a list based on the kind of their default. We think this is what you need for a travel request or event itinerary, whatever it might be. You can go in and change it later. You can create it from Excel. So if you've got an Excel document with some data already populated, then you can essentially import that with the headers and everything else. I'm going to do it a long way around just to show you how that works. Or you can do it from an existing list. So essentially, if someone's already created a list, you think, oh, that's brilliant, I want one of those. You can essentially create a copy of that within your environment. But I'm going to do it from a blank one. I'm going to do it the long way around. So we're going to call it lessons. I'm not going to give it a description, but again, you could give it a description. Oops, if I could spell again. Option to put it into navigation. I'm going to turn that off. Click create. And there we go. As quick as that, I've now got a log which I can add some things to. So as I did before, I need to add in a few extra columns into this. So I'm just going to make this match my existing Excel document. So we're just going to add in a lessons date. And let's just do this nice and fast. So you're going to have to bear with me a second while I run through and do these. But we've got a date. We want to know who raised the lesson. So we're just going to say raised. We want to know the detail about the lesson itself. So this time we're going to go for multiple lines of text because we want someone to put in a bit of detail around it. Lessons. We want to know what follow-up might have happened. So again, we want some richness of the data here. So we're just going to call that one follow-up. There are some different options when you're creating multi-line text as well. You can embed HTML into it, or you can just have it as very plain text, so you can't have links and tables. So there are some different options for you. And then the last thing we're going to do is just add in a choice column into here again. So we want to know if it's a internal or external lesson. So maybe we could go internal, external. Some options down here. So internal, external, or maybe both as well. I guess it could be both. Let's do it properly and put some capitals on here as well. Okay, and click save. Okay, so as quick as that, I've just created a list where I can now collaborate. I can get people to come into this. They can put in their lessons, provided they got permissions for the list, of course. But I promise not to mention lessons, permissions. But what I now need to do is move some of my existing lessons into this list. And these are the lessons that I already have within Excel here. So you'll see I've got the corresponding titles to the data that I've got within here. And I just want to do a really quick kind of movement of the data. And this is really where copy and paste comes in. So I can go into edit in grid view. Assuming all my columns are in the same order as they are in the list over here, and assuming they're the same data type, what I can do is come into my Excel document. I can highlight my data. I can copy that. I can come back into my lessons learned log, make sure I highlight the row, as you see there, the row is highlighted, and do a paste. and then you see I've moved my data in very quickly. SharePoint, again, it will go off and it will just validate that and make sure everything's okay, but it's not giving me any warnings. So I can exit the grid view, and there I've just moved some data very quickly into my lessons learned log. So we're talking about collaboration today. Just as you can with a document, we can go and edit a particular item. So we can edit any of the information in here, but we can also add in comments as well. So again, very similar function to what we're seeing in the Word document. Again, I can tag people in here. So let's tag Kara again. Let's ask if she can review this one particular one. So Kara will get a notification, and then she may come in here. She can put in some kind of comment, say she reviewed it, or maybe she changed certain things, or this is her views on life, whatever she likes. But there's ability to keep that kind of history against that particular lessons learned log in there as well. Couple of other things we can do with this as well. So we can edit in grid view. We can export this. So if we needed to put that back out into Excel for whatever reason, we've got the ability to do this. We've got certain integration we can build in again with other parts of the Power Platform. And we can also build other views on the data as well. Now I'm just going to do one of those really quickly to show you some of the newer functionality that's coming through. So we're just going to do a new view. Create a new view, and again, maybe let's just call this lessons. But what we're going to do that's slightly different is we're going to do it as a gallery view. Okay, so this is going to change the look and feel of how people actually interact with these particular items. Again, I'm going to make it public. I'm going to click create, and there you see you've kind of got much more modern look and feel to these lists. So they're now essentially in cards. You can't move them around as you can in Trello or Planner or anything like that. But it's just a bit of a nicer experience for the end user. Again, you can apply filters on this if you need to, but just a better way, I think, of having the ability to interact with some of this data coming through. If I wanted to go back to my previous view, again, I can do that very simply. And just to show on the comment over here, we've got this little speaker sign over here, and that means that a comment has actually been added. That was the comment I added a minute ago against this particular item. So hopefully that will make sense. You see how quickly I can set these things up. That's essentially a template library and a lessons learned log that's been created. I'm going to jump back over to site contents. I'm not actually going to create a calendar just because we're running a little bit short on time, but in Blue Peter style, here's one that I did earlier. A calendar is essentially a list. It's very similar. It's similar but slightly different. It's a standard app. You can just go and say when you create a new item, there's an option to choose a calendar view. And then from here, you maybe want to enter key information relating to a particular date, or you can make a recurring invite, whatever you want. You can also link this into Outlook as well. So you can edit these calendars through Outlook directly, which again is quite a useful feature. So we've created our three things. What we now need to do is bring those together through a page where an end user can ultimately interact with those. I know I'm running short on time, so I'm going to do this very quickly. So you're going to have to excuse me a little bit here. But let's go back to our homepage, actually, shall we, as a starting point. So this is our homepage we've got at the moment. It says a little bit bland. It's not giving us too much. So we come back up to our cog, and what we want to say is to add a page. Get a couple of kind of default things coming through, but I'm just going to go for a default page up here and create page. And then this is a standard SharePoint page that we get out of the box. A couple of things we can do to this really quickly. We've got a header up the top, and then what we have is what are called sections. And the sections essentially break up the page into different sections. If we want to add a new one in, it then gives us some options over what kind of layout do we want. So do we want 1 column, 2 columns, 3 columns, or different sections of that. I'm going to create, maybe let's create a couple in here. So let's just get rid of that top one for the starting point. So let's add in a new one. Let's do 3 columns going across. Then maybe let's do a 2 by 2, and then let's do do a 1 column, and let's do another 1 column down there, so something like this. Okay, so essentially we've built a bit of a framework, a bit of a skeleton that we can now start to populate these things in. And the way we populate this is we add in what are called web parts. Web part, actually, before I do that, what I'll do is I'll just go and give this a name. So let's call this PMO home, for example. Okay, so a web part is essentially another component we can add onto the page that can surface some information or we can interact with. And the way you can add a web part is you then click on the little plus sign within the section, and then you've got this new feature that pops up in SharePoint. So it says, well, what kind of web part do you want to add in? And SharePoint gives you all kinds of different ones in there. There's lots of different things to play with. If you're not quite sure, if you're looking for one in particular, you can start to type in as well. So you can look for things. So maybe if we want something simple, we want a organizational web chart, and we want to know, maybe Lauren is involved here, so we want to know where Lauren sits in the organization. So we put Lauren in, and then we come in here and we say, right, how many levels up are we interested? How many people above Lauren do we want to see? So maybe let's just see two levels above Lauren, so we can see where she sits in the organization, who her boss is, and also maybe we've got Joel here. Maybe something else very simple. We want to know a bit of text in here, so saying welcome to the site or something like that. So where's the text? Just there. So we can enter a text box. We can say hello, whatever we like. So whatever text may be helpful to the end user. Maybe another one below, which might be some links or something. So obviously you do want links on your home page. They kind of do a quick search. There's something called quick links. These are essentially links to either something on this site or maybe an external link. We got the option to add a link in here. So this will show us anything on a particular site, or indeed we can add in a link to an external site as well. So maybe our assurance plan is kind of important. We want to click insert, and there we go. We created a link very quickly. It auto selects an image, but you can change it. You can have a default icon if you want. So there's lots of icons in here. So maybe we'll have a little phone. And we can also change the formatting of this as well. So maybe we want to have this as a film strip or a grid, tiles, whatever we want. There's lots of different things, different ways of showing this through. I'm just going to jump down here and show you some of these components that we just built and how we can then bring them through onto this particular page. So the first thing we did is we built a template library. So let's go find a document library down here. So this is the document library web part where we can then bring in the contents of any library. So click that one in there. It says, well, which one do you want? Well, I want the template one. And there we go. These are all the documents that I just created a minute ago. Actually, we don't quite want that one because we're seeing the one that's still draft. So I can come in here. So it says, right, which document library do I want? I still want the template one, but I don't want to see all documents. I want to see the one. I just want to see the approved ones. Click apply, and then you'll see one of my documents dropped off because I don't need people seeing those draft documents. I only want them to see and interact with the approved ones. So what else did we do? We added in a events calendar. So maybe we want to show people what's happening or what's coming up. So we have an events web part. Over here then it's saying, okay, well, what events list do you want it coming from? We want it coming from the calendar that we just created. Got a couple of options how we display it. Do I want it as a film trip? Do I want it as maybe something a bit more compact? And what do I want? Maybe I want everything coming up this month. Okay, let's turn that one off. So very quickly, from an end user perspective, they could come in this. They could see all the kind of PMO or programmer level activities which are due to happen this month. And then last thing over here, so let's just drop that one down. We put in a lessons learnt log. So maybe we want to show that to our end users. So that's a list which we built previously. So I'm going to click on list. I want to show my lessons. And then very quickly, it shows me the lessons that I just entered through that log. Again, I'm going to come into edit. I don't really like that view, to be honest. I much prefer the card view that I built earlier. So I'm going to change that to the lessons one, click apply, and now I've got something that looks a little bit nicer. Now I'm nearly done, so I'm just going to click publish at this stage. And that's going to publish that as a finished document. I did want to do a bit more on this, but I'm getting very short on time, so I'm going to draw this to an end in a second. But last thing I really want to show you then is how do I make this my home page. So at the moment this is just a page, but it's not the landing page for the particular site. And that's really easy. Back to our friend's site contents. If I go and look in site pages, you see the page that I've just created over here. And if I click on this, there's an option in here called Make Home Page. So I just need to click that. That says it's done, as simple as that. Come back up to my home page. And this is now what the users will see and interact with as their starting point when they land on this page. So hopefully that's given you a bit of context. Literally within 20-30 minutes, I've created some templates there to put some templates. I've put some data against it. We've got a lessons learned log. We've got a calendar list of calendar events in here. We can also interact with this particular site and record comments and everything else in here. Lots and lots more things we can do on this as well. But I think time is really stopping me building anything more at this stage. So hope that was helpful. Are there any questions or Joel, is there any comments that I can pick up at this stage?
I think there's a few questions here, so thanks for that, Toby. One question was, could you have imported an Excel file? And I went back to the person who asked that question. Sorry, it's not clear of the name on Teams at the moment of the individual that asked that question. But yes, you can import from Excel. You can create a list from Excel. I think Dolly had a bit of a challenge, and maybe it was referenced into that specifically, but just going on the website quickly just to clarify, I think that the table has to actually be formed in Excel in order to upload it or to accept it into that little create list from Excel feature. But there's also another question from Brian here. Why not just use Excel in SharePoint, I presume, as an uploaded document as opposed to the benefits? What are the benefits of using a list? I think Brian, just conscious of time, Toby, so I'll just take this one if that's all right. Just done a bit of prepping on it. But I think, Brian, in my experience, Excel has a limitation. It has a limitation on, formulas, lookups, especially when you're trying to look up other data from other sources. It can get quite complex. I have a couple of Excel documents which I hate, and everybody knows how much from Microsoft. Everybody knows how much I hate Excel. But in it they crash, so it's quite hard to have one single version of the truth. And I guess control over the data as well in the record. So using permissions, which we're not really going to go into here, but you can control who can change what they can change, and you get an audit history of exactly what field and what kind of record they are changing. And I guess all that leads to better data integrity as well. So, having, that data be able to be used by other services. So that list can be a list of locations can be used by, a desk booking list, and that list of locations is singular. And it allows you to build mini systems, and that's the way I see it. Whereas Excel's more an analytical data, analysis tool. And as Toby was showing you earlier, having a list and being able to create a comment and then that create a planner task or a task on that person to go and do an activity is something that's not, not natively or mature in Excel at the moment. So yes, SharePoint lists for me are, how I used to use it and how we use it now is more about creating mini systems and the records and the lists of tables in a system in essence. So that's the kind of the benefit for using it for me. And what will always happen is, with Excel is that you'll upload an Excel document and then somebody will download it and somebody will rename it and they'll upload it again and it'll go into the document library in 3 months' time. It'll have 5 different Excel documents, all named different things, all doing exactly the same thing, and you won't have a clue where to look. You'll be like, well, what's going on? So that's why some of the things that I like about SharePoint. But we've run out of time. Thank you, Toby, for the demonstration. It was much appreciated. Thank you, everyone. everybody for joining. I hope you find it useful. I definitely found it useful. I didn't realise you could do conditional formatting in SharePoint. So thank you, Toby, for teaching me something there. And I think if anybody needs any further support, we offer a few coaching sessions as well. So if anybody wants to get in touch with us, please email us at info@architectservices.co.uk or email us directly, myself, joel.markham@architectservices.co.uk. And we offer a number of different coaching sessions where we can take you through the collaboration tools in Microsoft 365 as well. So if you have any further requirements, please just let us know. Alternatively, you can subscribe to us on YouTube. We have, I think, over 70, 80 subscribers now on YouTube, and you can subscribe to us or follow us on LinkedIn as well. And we, as I say at the start of the call, we do one webinar per week at the moment on Microsoft 365 and the various tools available within the platform. So yeah, thank you again to Toby. Thank you for every one of you who have joined the session, much appreciated. And please do have a great rest of the day, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you so much for your time. Cheers.